Hello and welcome to the all-new call-in show, Belief Battles, a weekly show ready to take your calls about religion, atheism, and secularism, featuring co-hosts, atheist and international VTuber Teo Elateo, and Mark Peralta, an ex-evangelical pastor, now atheist. So without further ado, Belief Battles.
Call 1-866-696-6698.
Awesome. After such an amazing presentation, I'm so happy to be here. Hi, Mark. How are you?
What's going on, Theo? It is great to be here, man.
Yeah, it's cool. I want to check one little thing. So let me try. Let me see. Oh, I'm listening to ourselves. So I can hear myself. Okay, that's enough. That's very confusing. Things are working fine. Finally, we are learning how to use all this new equipment that we're using in here. So I'm very excited about it. Very pumped, if I have to say so. And I want to thank our amazing and wonderful screen caller who is right now. Well, screen callers in general who are doing such an amazing job, and they will be taking take any calls that people want to have with us. Also, for this episode, we have also decided to add a third option. If you don't feel comfortable with the URL in which you use a kind of phone or calling to our phone, you can also join us on StreamYard. So you have several options, people. Come here and tell us about your belief, why you believe in those things and why, because that's what we want to know. Right, sir?
That's right.
Right,
That's
right.
right. And I want to thank our volunteers again because you guys are donating your time, and it's time is money, and we greatly appreciate it. We are literally starting from the ground. Like this is this is an effort that takes a bit of money. It takes a lot of time, and so we appreciate any and all your help. Those of you that are watching, we welcome you to Belief Battles. We are so not new at this. We've Tel, you've been in the Hispanic community for a little bit, huh? With your channel, tell us a little bit about what you have been doing with Nuestra Experiencia Atea.
Oh, well, over there I have been receiving people such as a certain apostate of mine who didn't want to show his face or his voice in the beginning. Now he has his own channel. Maybe you know him because it's you. I've been talking about the harms of religion most of the time. We have been debating some believers who go to the live streams on Sunday to say that we are wrong. Well, they have their chance to tell us why. And so far, I haven't found anyone who has proven us wrong, but hey, the conversations are fun. For some reason, people tend to avoid this type of conversations in Spanish. They are taboo. So that's why we're doing this in English. So if people want to debate us in English, here we are.
For
Why don't you
sure.
tell us about your own channel as well, Mr. Apostate of mine?
Yeah. So, my wife and I, Apostate Ann and I, we started a podcast together, Apostate of Mine, where we essentially take very deep dives into some of the big questions, and we go into a lot of the reasons why we just no longer can trust in the Bible, and our beliefs in God. But primarily, we do what's sort of a, I mean, it sounds critical, like we're being critical, but critical in the sense that we take an academic approach to reading the Bible, and in order to understand the message in not only in terms of what it's literally is saying, but the message in its right biblical context. And we also taking in consideration the original languages of whatever text we're dealing with. And so yeah, we give a critical approach to Bible study and Christianity in general. And so we are recently came up from a short series of episodes where we talked about the what we consider the top, I think it's 7 or 6 presuppositions for being a Christian. Like the top the main things that you've got to accept as something that you just doesn't, in spite of there not being any evidence for it, you just have to believe that it's true in order for Christianity to work. But then we also get into other stuff, like we are actually about to release a podcast where we talked about the Egyptian ancient religion, um, more specifically the myth of Osiris, and how that sort of plays a role in, you know, what eventually leads to the belief on a resurrected God in Christianity. And so, yeah, we're excited to share that type of content there. And we're also very passionate about being and making this thing happen, Belief Battles. So
Cool. So, people, if you want to talk about any of this, please call us. We are open to any of your calls. And if not, I wanted to bring to you something that has been a part of my channel all this time. And now, whenever I stream for the ACA, I'm doing this as well. I'm talking about the harms of religion in many of its different ways that it has. For example, there have been a lot of religious institutions and religious schools that use their religious ideas to discriminate against children, either by their gender, either if they don't perform perfectly, they say that they go against their church and they expel them. So like that, the school looks very positive and people say, oh yeah, only the best students come from that school and they send their children there. And if children do not perform well, they are just discriminated. And once again, they also impose awful ideas onto them, like no, you're an abomination if you don't like people from the opposite gender, or awful stuff like that. So yeah, kind of creepy. I don't know what you think about that.
about the harms of religion in general.
I'm talking about harms related to school, but yeah, let's talk about harms
Oh,
of religion in general. I'm listening to
related.
you, dear Mark.
Yeah. Well, let me think about that school though. That's interesting because so I was raised in the Catholic. I was raised Catholic, which means that from elementary school I was in a Catholic private school where, I mean, and I think in terms of like the academic instruction and all that, I think for the most part they're great. But they do like instill on you the fear of God, and from very young you have to attend mass on a weekly basis. So you're really indoctrinated by going to school at a Catholic school for the most part, or at least that's the way that it was for me in the 80s. I'm not sure how it is now. I really have not done any research on that, but I thought that was really interesting. They did do corporal punishment, which I think was sort of traumatic. And I have an anecdote I can share if you want.
Please go ahead.
So I don't remember what I did that I got in trouble. I think I was in a fight. I fought somebody, and so I was called in. They have what's called a rector, or the disciplinarian rector. He's like the guy you'd never want to have to be called to his office. And he just kind of gave me sort of an interview, like across the desk, that kind of thing. What happened? What did you do? Blah blah blah. And I mean, it was sort of like he wasn't like upset or anything. He was very kind about it. And then at the end of the conversation, where I admitted that, hey, I did fight back and whatnot, but I'm like, he started first. And he was like, well, it is what it is. And he just sort of turned around, and behind his desk, he had a tray or some sort of furniture thing where he had, this is no exaggeration, he had like maybe 5 or 7 sticks. I think it was about 7 sticks, wooden sticks. And they ranged from long and thin to sort of stubby and not really short, but on the thicker side. And he was just like, pick your favorite. And then he had me bend over the desk and he spanked me. I don't know how many times, but he hit me with a stick.
That's disgusting.
That was crazy.
Awful.
I mean, I just felt so violated. Like, it's like they didn't even call my dad, like, hey, he's in trouble. But they just went with it. So I think one time I got slapped on my hand by another wooden spoon. Now, granted, this is in the 80s, and this was in Colombia. So
I don't know. I still find it awful. So yeah, it's terrible.
yeah,
Lisa in here says, "I'm so sorry that you went through that. That's horrible and breaks my heart. You deserve better than that." Yes, I
thank you.
agree. Everybody deserves much better than that.
Yeah.
And um, well, uh, the next topic that I want to bring is kind of related to schools because in Utah recently they in 20 yeah this year, right, 2022, this year 2023, damn it,
Mhm.
last year 2022.
Good Lord.
Oh boy, I'm so lost. In Utah there was a law that allowed schools to ban books if under several reasons. One of the Some of those reasons are vulgarity and violence. And do you want to know which book has been banned because of vulgarity and violence now?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. You're going to love this. The Bible itself has been banned because of the vulgarity and the violence present on it.
The
It's
Bible.
Yeah, the Bible. It's so. I mean, it is full of vulgarity.
It
Yes,
is.
if you read it, you know it is. We have seen a lot of it on Genesis. Violence, yes, much violence.
Hmm.
So people started complaining, and the Utah's law, it's a Republican law, so the irony is so beautiful. The government passed a law banning pornographic or indecent books from schools. Most books were related to sexual orientation and identity, which of course is what they wanted to attack. But now the Bible has been banned because, of course, it states a lot. It has a lot of violence. It has a lot of misogyny. It has um, a lot of vulgarity. It does have a lot of pornographic content. If you see that, I'm sure people will try to create now family-friendly Bibles and stuff like that. But I don't know. I find it hilarious that Christians made their own book banned because they don't read their own damn book, and the irony is just delicious. But that's it.
And you know what?
So
I tell you what's
what's
really
yours?
deceitful. What's really deceitful are like the children's Bible stories and the stuff that kids get taught in Sunday school. Like, if you're critical about it, and I mean, I get it. Like, in one respect, there is a way to make children's books be more appealing to children. But the reality is that children's Bibles and the stuff that they show on Sunday school, or the curriculums that are chosen for Sunday school teaching, are really like the best case scenario for some of the for the main Bible stories. But they
Mhm.
certainly never reveal details that would, you know, make you think like, wait a minute, is this really a loving God, or what's going on here? Right? And that's how they teach it to you from a very young age. So I think that most of us grow up sort of like, um, filtering anything that we do read, if indeed as an adult we read the actual Bible, that we're reading the stories through a filter that tells us that, God is a loving God, and he must have reasons why he did it or whatnot, that would might keep us from like really being critical, and so having like those thoughts that we have now as skeptics and critical readers of the Bible, that you're like, wait a minute, is it really saying this? That kind of stuff.
Well, I do remember in Spanish is Mi primer libro de historias bíblicas. It's a book from the Jehovah Witnesses. It would be like my first book of biblical stories. And it takes the stories from the Bible and it shows them in a more family-friendly way, to call it one way. So I understood that obviously these were stories written in a simpler way, so I, as a child, could understand them. And when I grew up, as you were saying, it's expected that we go and read the real story and understand what was really all that about. But as you said, we have the story filter and we want to keep the old story, the one that we first knew about. So we don't question anything. We don't think about the awful stuff that is being shown in there or being done in there, because we have the family-friendly version and we like it because, well, because it's nicer, and of course that is what they taught us. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at this. Kiramono has the same book. He's saying that he remembers having a book of Bible story for kids, and he only remembers Joseph and the rainbow tunic. I found that drawing recently when we went with our own reading of the Bible in Atheogesis. I will say it in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I mean, I don't know if those of you that have joined the live, we want to welcome you, and maybe we could take this opportunity to thank you for showing up. I've personally been invited. You've been inviting people over on Facebook, and yeah, we're so glad
Hey,
to be here.
Me too.
Yeah. And let this be a space where those of you that have had maybe those hard questions, that as an adult, that you read your Bible and you come across stories or details that you just puzzle you, like it just doesn't make sense. Call us. We can I think between you and I, we can maybe bring some clarity on some of these big questions that arise from actually reading the Bible. Like does the Bible really teach an omnipresent God?
Ooh. So, people, if you're on YouTube, please, in the description of this video, you can find the links that I'm posting. So you can join us in any way you want. Either StreamYard, you can call into the show, or you can use your browser to make a phone call. It's free for you. So if I call, will there be a charge? There shouldn't be, but just in case you are afraid of that, use the URL, which doesn't use the phone number, and it's still a call. So we are getting charged, but you aren't. It should be free though. So up to you, pal. It's up to you.
Thank you. Yeah. And then also, I want to remind you that the other caller that we're looking for is you Christian, you Hindu, you Muslim, you Mormon, right? If you are passionate about your beliefs and you wish to allow us to cross-examine your reasoning, let us hear not only what you believe, but why you believe, and let's have a conversation. Let's do this.
We want to know about your ideas. We want to know what you expect. So come on, people, join us. It's free for you, for you. So join us.
Yeah.
The invitation has been made. Well, now that we have been talking about the harms of religions at schools and how those harms go against the Bible itself, which is hilarious, let me see if I have another thing related to school. I mean, I have a lot of them, but I have been choosing some of them. Well, book burnings. That happened a lot during a long time. Either when the most famous Christian got to power and decided, to get rid of the murderers of Jesus, and the Holocaust and the Second World War happened, or during the whole Dark Ages when the church decided that anything that opposed the Bible had to be burned. That's terrible.
Yeah,
I don't know if you.
that's definitely
Mhm.
horrible.
And also, let's not
Yeah.
remember. Let's remember and not forget what happened in all of America, where they burned all the books of the Mayans, Incans, and all the cultures that existed in here, and they decided to replace all of that with Christian ideas. And it was awful because it was a cultural genocide. Very sad, actually. Ooh,
Yeah.
Lisette takes such an important point. Residential schools in Canada, a horrific example of the Catholic Church committing crimes against children. Oof, yes, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. Can't imagine, but
Hmm.
it's just interesting how it's not just the school, it's like the whole community. It's the whole church system. It's the whole concept that people that are in clergy positions, or you know elders, people that are like leaders in communities, that all have in common like this passion for their God, and they engage this God through prayer, and they hear, they believe that God speaks to them, and then they relate whatever they feel like, that they understood from whatever message they got, that to the community. And it's like all that based on things that are possibly not even true. And it's like, are they just making stuff up? Like what's going on in those like circles? I always felt like when I worked in church that you have the pastoral staff and the administrative staff, and then you have the elders. And these elders, they're like the elite group of the church, and they have they come out and they meet with like the main pastor behind closed doors, and they have, they plan things out. And I don't know what else would usually go on in those meetings, but I just always thought that it was kind of shady that you have this group of individuals that, and they were almost always people in the church that were there not because their charisma or because of their experience, but because they were in positions of influence already in their community. So you're talking business owners and local politicians that are involved making decisions for their church body. Um, and then when it came to disciplinary things, they were the ones that acted as, or they're the ones who generally act as sort of like the court, right? So anything that goes on with a pastor, something is revealed, a sin is brought up, and someone gets caught cheating or something. It's really first is like these elders that are gonna process the information and develop a plan on how to execute whatever action plan they're gonna take. And then it just works all sort of kind of conspiratorial. And I think that's how churches can get away with concealing injustices or concealing sexual acts or violence, because they have a system of sort of checks and balances within them that even in some church denominations is part of their bylaws, that should a crime be committed, and I think, I mean, you can speak better than I can on the JWs, but don't they don't they have a law where they're not allowed to bring in the cops unless something else, or how does that work? Do you know?
Sorry, for one moment I had no connection. I couldn't hear anything, so I have ruined everything.
Oh, okay.
uh, can you tell me your last things? Because I lost like the last minute of you. I was struggling with my audience here.
Gotcha. No, I was saying how even some church denominations, some church, yeah, some like the JWs, for example, don't they have laws like church bylaws where if something happens in the church that like a crime or something, or not necessarily a crime, but something that there's a complaint, right? Someone gets molested, someone gets, I don't know, abused physically somehow, that they're not allowed to go to the cops first, that they have to go to the elders or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, Jehovah Witnesses. There must be at least three witnesses because of their laws. If not, they fight against that. You are not supposed to follow, the regular laws and go through that. That's why with Alma we have talked about this this law in the United States, HB 90, which was a law that was supposed to force churches to send pedophiles to police stations and to jail if possible, because they were supposed to um, give them to the justice system. They had to give all the information. That's why Jehovah Witnesses, Mormons, evangelical people, Catholic churches, all of those natural enemies decided to join in order to protect their own pedophiles. So it's awful, but all religions suffer from this same thing, and all religions protect their criminals, and it's extremely disgusting. And yes, they do have, as you mentioned, or as you ask, they do have ways to protect their criminals and barriers for victims, so the victims cannot speak, and they because they don't want people to know what is going on inside doors, right? They want to
Hmm.
show this. Oh no, we are such a good, thing for community. When in reality they keep raping children and hiding it. It's awful, disgusting.
Wow. And what, tell us, like, what would happen if, say, there's a family that, a child gets molested or something, and rather than going to the elders or whatever, they bypass them and they go to the cops. What would happen to them, or how do you think the church would
Uh,
react?
well, I don't belong to any of those churches anymore, but most likely, obviously, from the Jehovah Witnesses, they are going to be expelled immediately because they are attacking the church. Maybe they would say that they are slandering the church, that they have been lying. I have seen those evangelicals saying that people who talk against them are people who have been possessed by demons, or people who are actual demons. So obviously they would make up some silly stuff because they have to protect themselves and their crimes, and they cannot allow the society to see how rotten and evil they are. But yeah, probably they would be attacked by the whole community despite them doing the right thing.
Yeah. And see, and that's essentially part of what's wrong with that entire mechanism, that entire part of our society, that because they have systems in place and they have these false concepts of reality, like there's some supernatural being out there that ultimately is going to right, every wrong, and bring justice. They feel like they can take liberties, and act in such a way that that's just not right, you know
Can you imagine that
um,
looking for justice makes you the evil person? Like fighting evilness makes fighting what is evil make us evil for them. It's
yeah.
crazy. I don't know.
And the other thing is that I
Uh,
don't know, like when growing up, you'd hear stories about the church and all that, but it was generally the Catholic Church that you heard about pedophilia and all that. But then we've seen, like, over the last I don't know, 10, 15 years perhaps, the same problems arising in other church denominations, not just the Catholic Church.
Okay, Mark, I think I have to stop you because we are being awful hosts. We do have our first call, and I would love to talk to this guy.
Let's do
He's
it.
called Kedamono. I know this guy, so I have talked with him about his religion before. I guess it's better if you take him this time. And yeah, Kedamono, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
You sound awesome. Thanks for being here, pal.
Thanks.
sounds
Well,
good.
sorry for my awful pronunciation. I don't usually speak English, so
You sound good
Well,
so
you are doing
far.
it now, so
well, first time in a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
We appreciate it. Kedamono, so what belief do you would you like to discuss?
well, there is many things. I think some of them I have talked with Theo in his other channel, but I can I want to talk talk here. First of all, if society really at a certain point needs religion.
ew. Okay, why do you
Oh,
think that,
if.
sir?
Well, because you need to see the other side of the coin. Because I know your job is telling people about the wrongdoings of religion, but in other areas, I think there is no other thing that can replace religion. Not because it's impossible, like a lot of apologists say, but I think it's because religion is the only strong ideology in that area.
So, what? Two things. Number one, this is not my job; it's my hobby. Nobody's paying me for doing this, but if somebody wants to pay me, please do it. And second, please understand that from my point of view, and I'm going to let Apostino Mine go after me, but from my point of view, you're saying, oh yes, we have this very harmful thing. If we remove this harmful thing, what other harmful thing are we going to have? And I do have a problem with that. That's all I have to say about this.
Yeah.
Now it's your turn, Apostate.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I mean that's really to me it's this could be this conversation could go many places, but what need do you think religion is fulfilling that cannot be filled or yeah served or
uh,
solved through any other means that does not involve a religion?
I'm not saying it can't be resolved by other things. The question is, other things aren't strong enough in that kind of area. For example, people who abuse drugs. I know a lot of people. There's a lot of people in my life who have used drugs, and in some way that that has made their life worse. A lot of them ended in living in the streets, and the people who recover generally is through religion, and only one of them uh, do it alone.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, and I'm kind of surprised that you're going off to something that's somewhat unrelated. I mean, atheism is the rejection of religion.
Yes.
So atheism doesn't is not
No,
its
no.
job with drugs. What-
I'm not
Mhm.
talking about atheism. I'm talking about society needing religion in this specific part because is
Mhm.
what appears to be helping more to be helping. Yeah,
Okay, so you
more
want
than
you
other
all
things.
right. So you're referring to overcoming drug addiction? Is that what you're talking about?
I mean, yes, like for example, but I'm using this example because I know there is secular alternatives, people who but are voluntaries
Mhm.
in that kind of scenario, but you don't see that uh, a lot. like you see with religion.
I
I
mean,
mean,
where do you
religion
see
helps.
churches helping people overcome drug addiction?
For
Where is that
example,
happening?
in the last tours I went, there is a lot of new people who have abused drugs, and they they talk to missionary. They help them. Uh, First, they help them with their family, with the emotional part of this. Then, after some time, they come to the church.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not gonna deny that you don't have people, and I personally met many of them working at a church that would say, "Oh, I overcame this addiction, and God helped me through it." And okay, I can see how a person could arrive at such conclusions. Um, but what I'm failing to see is how the religion is actually doing it, other than the person having to go through a step recovery system. Which, by the way, I don't speak on this science, but I think I've heard enough that
Are you there?
12-step programs like AA and others that utilize some sort of belief system to actually to help people overcome addiction
Yes.
are not that good and can actually be very traumatic. And I know lots of people. I don't know if you've heard Derek Mythvision. I strongly recommend that you look him up, because he is one of those examples of someone who actually had more trouble overcoming addiction through religion or a religious system or a religious program, than just when he eventually gave up his beliefs and tried other ways of doing it. I don't know exactly how he did it, but I'm failing to see the connection there. I mean, if there was some sort of mechanism that you could prove or show where, say, prayer can actually take away someone's addiction and help them overcome it, and they can be demonstrated, maybe, but I generally don't have that much confidence on um, anecdotal evidence, such as people saying that God helped them, or you gotta have more than just, if you're gonna make such claim, you need evidence that shows how it's actually happening, that God is helping somebody that way. Does that make sense? Or do you have something? Tell you there? I think I've lost Keramomo.
Keamono should be still here because I can hear him, but
Okay.
yeah, he's Keamono. Can you hear us? Keamono. Oh,
Yeah.
he got out by an error. So,
Gotcha.
Keamono, please
Can you
join
hear me?
again. Oh, now we can hear you. So,
Yes,
did you hear what
I
Mark said?
Me salí por un error, pero ya volví.
Yeah, you were left out by a mistake, by an error. Now you're back. Did you hear what Mark said?
Or maybe let me just kind of give you a question. I said a lot. Let me just ask you something. What evidence do you have other than anecdotal evidence that where you can where you can demonstrate that claim? And the
I think
claim
we're not paying enough for this service, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you.
Okay,
Quedamono.
maybe we've lost them.
We have lost Quedamono.
You want to give it a shot,
Um,
Teo? I don't know what this is not really my wheelhouse. But I don't know, Teo. What do you think?
I mean, um, I, I mean, we have mentioned this so many times before,
Hmm.
and I have mentioned over and over again. Anything that religion can do well, you can do it much better without religion in a secular way.
Hmm.
Therefore, religion is not only an unnecessary evil. I think that we could get rid of religion, and the world would be a much better place. Much, much better. Those people who feel that they need religion is because they have been indoctrinated. I beside I mean I have heard people saying, "Oh no, if I didn't have my religion, I could be murdering other people and raping babies and stuff like that." And I don't believe that. I believe that those people want to believe that they could be evil without religion, but that they aren't, because I have said many times, people don't follow their awful Bible. They don't go and murder babies because they are in war against a nation where they want to have slaves from. They don't go and kill their own children because they are disobedient or because they don't worship God. So they don't go and annihilate complete nations just because they hear a voice telling them
Hmm.
to. So yeah, no, I don't believe that those people who say I would be killing without God, that they would do it. And
Yeah.
I do think that we would be much better with our religion, much more advanced, much more. We could have many more things in common, and we wouldn't have to be fighting for basic human rights nowadays. So yeah,
Yeah, and
I
also
do.
like what does the Bible say about drug addiction? I don't think the Bible doesn't even understand like what things are in like in terms of biology and human physiology. So Bible doesn't really say anything. So it's not like you can really pick up the Bible and be like, all right, what does God say about drug addiction that can actually help you? It doesn't say anything. What you might get from any kind of church, um how would you call that, because it's, some there's a lot of people that are like counselors, legitimate counselors that also serve in churches, or they provide counseling services in churches, but 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 with that they're bringing in professional training, they're bringing in um counseling techniques and stuff that comes from research and from academia, from the world. It doesn't come from the Bible. What you're getting from the Bible are a bunch of principles that then they're going to treat as dogma, something that secular counselors would not do, and say, all right, well, you want to be a better person, you're going to have to do this and this, and you're going to have to do all this and that. But all this and that is like biblically related is not going to help you. And if you think that you can overcome a drug addiction by praying about it, but you're only fooling yourself. Not to mention, and again, I'm not giving anyone any medical advice here, but I do know this much, that there are some addictions that quitting cold turkey or all of a sudden without any medical or professional help could be dangerous. That's the case for alcoholism. Alcoholism can be dangerous um, if not supervised by a medical professional. So people that are out there trusting their pastor with real body stuff, I have concerns about. And if that's what you want to talk about, we can talk about that. What do you think, Theo?
Well, I was going to say, should I mention that when you go to Alcoholic Anonymous, what you are doing is changing one addiction for another. So you stop being an alcoholic, but you're still addict to God and to worshiping and all those silly stuffs. So instead of accepting that you are a human with flaws, that you have made mistakes, that you can learn from those mistakes, and that you can do better and be better, you have to say, no, I'm worthless. I need another power doing stuff for me. And now I'm going to dedicate my whole life to loving Jesus because he is saving me from this thing that I am doing on my own. So, also, I love how
Yeah.
Lisette agrees with me. This one is amazing. So, yeah, it's.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
actually, she was saying the same. That they just are replacing drugs for their gods. And yeah, we
yeah,
totally agree.
and not to mention too that there are some addictions that can be aided with medication through a medical doctor, where people could overcome an addiction much easier and much faster, and be supervised by a medical professional that can actually help them. Because, like, what are you gonna do? Like, if you're going to your local pastor and that's it, and you refuse to go to the doctor because God's helping you. Not everyone does that, but there are a lot of people who will often ignore medical problems and seeking medical help because they think that they're getting help from a God. And what the pastors are not going to be like, go follow your doctor's advice. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, you need to trust God. That could get people into a lot of danger too. So
Oh,
again, yeah, I'm
yeah.
yet to
Do
see.
you?
Yeah.
I was going to mention faith healers. Those are the most disgusting people ever. And we have had an ex healing pastor who told us how some of those basic tricks are made on people and how sad it is that they actually believe those things.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's not just, it's not just in charismatic circles where that happens too, but there's like charismatic Catholics, and then you've
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of the other stuff like the um, the energy healers. That's another
Ugh.
cult in itself.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, my mother was. I remember when I was a kid, my mom would often do Reiki sessions on us.
Okay.
Yeah, she was an ordained Reiki master by the. I still remember this because it's she had a little diploma and everything. She
Of
was
course.
an ordained Reiki master by the order of Melchizedek, no less. So think about like the
Okay.
power that something like that has. You have that framed up on the wall, and then if it's all BS. It's incredible. Um, and she renounces all that now, but yeah, those were the days.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Anton says that his sister was also an ordained Reiki master.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
I'm
interesting.
kidding.
Dude,
Yeah.
apparently Kedamono is back, so if you want to talk to him, he's yours. And obviously, if Kedamono, if you want my opinion, you can ask me as well. But you
Yeah.
have talked more with me than with Mark. What?
Well, with both, but also I want to make as I'm not sure your point. Uh, for me, you know that only religion can help people in that place, but the key factor here maybe is that uh, uh, at least Christianity tells you have to change from your hair. Um, in certain area that is useful, but uh, the last point I want to do is the point of cohesion. I mean, social cohesion. And I know in the Americas, everybody is Christian, but from where my family is not that case. I mean, in Middle East, you some languages are only conserved by religious minorities. For example, the Christians in Egypt, they conserved the language that was before the Arab invasion. In I think in Iraq, it's it's something happened something similar. And from where I am, well, not where I am, but my parents, the Armenians have survivors and conservers because in a land full of their enemies, and something very important is the religion. For example, today in the war they have with Azerbaijan, the soldiers find crosses in their uniforms. They religion helps them to maintain cohesion. For example, well, I don't know how to.
I mean, let me ask you something. Let's just entertain with me a hypothetical.
Yes,
If
what
let's
happened?
say that on your way from school as a kid, you had to walk through a narrow, dark alley on your way home. Every day you knew
Yep.
that you had to go through, and there's no way to go around that alley. You have to go through it. If as a kid you get in the habit of imagining that imaginary friend is walking with you, do you would you say that could help you in building up the courage to walk through it?
I mean, if there is no other option that walk through the dark street, I think yes, that would help. I
That
mean,
would help, yeah. So that's thank you, and that's essentially at the very bottom of how I might see or agree with you that religion or the belief in a God can help you, in that there is something about like engaging your mind. There is something about I don't know, processing life in a way that, you know, if you know that someone is watching you and you're being supervised, that could potentially help you, you know, kind of do the right thing, right? But what we're asking from you and what's really needed, because in this case an imaginary friend is no, you know, it's no, it's God is no better than an imaginary friend. What we need here is evidence that actually shows how the God is protecting people, for instance. You know, like how, you know, it was not uncommon for people to say, oh yeah, the guardian angel saved me, right, from getting into a car accident. Well, show how that actually happened, because most of what you get is people saying, this happened to me and I remember this about it and I had a feeling and I was trusting God and he came through for me. But then when you ask for actual evidence of how the God did it, how the God cured the disease, is usually silence. So what else can you think of that could actually bring enough evidence or kind of help me see this?
well, at least in my opinion, the only kind of evidence is a miracle. I don't know if I pronounce that
Miracle.
in the way. My miracle. Yes,
Miracles?
I think it's miracles. Yes, I think it's the only way that this can be rejected
Mm.
or demonstrated.
Yeah. So, I mean, how would you define the miracle? What is a miracle?
Uh, what is a miracle? I mean, first is an act of God. Second, it defines the laws of physics. Third, it needs, and it's very important, it's something that helps people to have more faith or helps the church or individual person in their faith. I mean, that three characteristics.
All right. So let's talk about the second thing you said, which I think is the only character. I think the other two are stuff that you're claiming that it's doing, but let's talk about what you said about that it defies the laws of physics. How do
Yeah.
you know that a miracle took place and that in the way that it took place, that it actually defied the laws of physics?
Some people talk about very specific things. First of all, I think the best way to know if it's true or not is seeing the miracle in person, because there is no way to remake it. I mean, it's not like a chemical reaction. So,
And why do
well,
you think that is? Why do you think that these things cannot be replicated that way?
because the whole point is that what make it to help people have more faith. I mean, that's the whole point. So at least the Michael Father has
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. But don't go from there. So how do you know then that that's actually the case? Because I think that, I don't know about you, Theo, or you, Quedamono, but I would have more faith in a God who actually showed me the evidence that what he's doing is actually defying the laws of physics. And I can see that happening. Like, for example, I live in Texas, right? Let's say hypothetically that, you live in Spain, hypothetically. And we know that for me to jump on a plane and get to Spain, it's going to take me a good 8 hours, hypothetically speaking, 8 hours, right? But if right now, and we hang on the phone and I tell you, hey, I'm going to go meet you in Spain where you are, and I'm leaving right now, and I show up 45 minutes later, right? Where you're thinking, wait a minute, Mark is in Texas, I'm in Spain, and not even the Concorde can get here that fast. How did Mark get here that quickly? So we can sit here and hypothesize, well, maybe he jumped on an F-18, right? And he flew across the Atlantic and it took him 45 minutes. But then how do we can demonstrate that, couldn't we? Right? I could show you a video blog about my flight. I could show you live, maybe, if it's possible. I could show you records from the military that shows the logs when I got in on the airplane. Those things can be demonstrated. And, I could impress you in getting there that fast. When I call it a miracle, but there's something that you can demonstrate that, hey, here's the evidence of that. And so for you to say that it's intrinsic to a miracle, is by definition, a miracle has to be something that we're going to claim that it defies the laws of physics, but yet we can't demonstrate in any way how it defied the laws of physics. And so that's how I'm not able to accept that as even an argument for it, because I think what it is sort of a twist. It's a bit of it's not all rational, Quedamono, to think that way about miracles. Miracles too ought to be able to be demonstrated and replicated. And in this case, it is much better to have a God who does the miracle that he actually demonstrates. That will be more meaningful, I think. So how do you know that a miracle that does not show evidence, that cannot be replicated, is actually more suitable for growing someone's faith?
Well, I mean, really, I don't know. The most part of my life, I used to think in a very like there is no evidence at all that's why miracles are so important. But then when I started to go into church again, I have talked about this with people, but they were presenting me a different view of miracles that I used to have. For for example, what you were saying, why God doesn't show the evidence of things instead of something that can be described as anecdotal evidence.
Hmm.
Well, they presented me with other kind of concept that I think I'm not prepared to talk about it. So I think you have a point, but I also think the important part is to watch the miracle or be present because, like you said, if you come to my house right now, I think the if I don't see how you come here, I can say something for sure. So at least this is what I think. It's important. The
Hmm.
presence is important to see something supernatural happening in the moment to be more sure about it,
Yeah.
and that's a key factor for me.
And then the other thing I'll close with this, is that what you also have with anecdotal evidence that can be problematic,
Yes,
or
of course.
that contributes to my skepticism, let's just say, at least for me, is that what often happens when people claim to have been healed by a god
Yes,
or through prayer or through a reiki session, etc., is where a person might indeed be healed, or perhaps if there's a disease like cancer that is suspended for a period of time. But very seldom the person does not account in their conclusion that a miracle took place if there was indeed a healing. Natural mechanisms by which the body can heal itself, and things that we already know through pathophysiology and medicine, how the body works, how the immune system works, and how the body has mechanisms in place to bring about healing already. Whereas you have cases like some sort of illness that the person's cured, and in the end, the anecdote concludes God healed me, but we're not considering the involvement of the body. We're not, because we don't know it. We're not considering even mentioning medical and professional intervention, which almost always happens in cases where people are ill in today's world, especially if you live in the U.S., where most people have access to a hospital, to medical professionals, one way or another. And that isn't mentioned as part of the equation on how a person concludes that a miracle took place. It's just ignored by default. And I don't think that's fair. And that undermines to me the power of anecdotal evidence, because those experiences are very subjective.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, also the all the whole the hard work of medics and nurses who try to heal these people just for them to
Yeah.
say thank you God, dude, we have been working our asses off in order to heal you, but no, it's God. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. I remember, I can give you an example. I remember a cousin of mine once, this is, we're talking a healthy, athletic person that he was admitted in the hospital in critical condition. He had this condition called, he had an acute case, a sudden case of rhabdomyolysis, which is a condition that was brought about working out, overworking out, because like I said, he's an athlete. And this rhabdomyolysis condition um, basically made his blood toxic. Um, I forget exactly how it happens, but it's a condition that can kill you. And I remember because I was a pastor, and not only is a family member, but I was called in, and I went out there as quickly as I could. And he was in intensive care because they said at the hospital that the numbers on the toxic screen were the highest that the doctors of turn were aware of. That not even in medical school they had even seen that those high numbers of this toxic substance or molecule in the blood. And they were like, very well, we don't know what's going to happen here. And all we could do was to put a catheter and on his penis, and they would like put basically hydrate his body so that he can pee it out. And I remember we had like this, this very powerful prayer, and we invoked the Holy Spirit, and we covered him in the blood of Jesus and all that stuff. He eventually recovered. Next day he was getting better, and then he went home on the third day. And the family concluded a miracle took place because the doctor said they had never seen such worse condition. And what else? How else would you explain it? And that's what people do. But let's consider the fact that he was in a hospital where he was hooked up to machines, and he was given medicine, and he was given care, and he was monitored by medical professionals that's what they were trained for, and they have lots of experience doing it. And we don't account for that. We just want to feel like God is working through our lives, and that it is our responsibility to give him the praise and the honor, and it ends there. But do we really have evidence that nothing but a miracle took place? Not really. And I think that is, that goes the same with most. I don't know if you have any stories or anything, Teo, but
If you told this story before,
not so sure. I'm not so sure. Caramono, you still with us?
I don't think so.
Yes, I'm still here.
All right.
Yes, I mean,
Well, thank
I
you for.
understand. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you for sharing your thoughts and your questions. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for this all. I like to be in this program. I didn't pronounce things well, but I think I did some decent job trying to speak in English. Well, thanks and bye.
Hey, you did a great job, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, dear Kiramono. You are a cool guy, a cool kid. So thank you. You gave us something to talk about. So thanks. I guess I have told enough things to Kiramono already about his beliefs and why I don't agree with them. So I will let you go with him unless he requests my opinions, because I'm just going to repeat the same as ever, and I'm just going to repeat once again that there are no real miracles, only liars and people who don't understand how things work around. And before we continue, let me say hi to TARDIS Chick. I'm so happy to see you in here. Thank you so much for joining us. You are awesome. TARDIS Chick is an amazing person who has been with me in a couple of programs, and yeah, I love her company. So thank you.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it. I mean, miracles. I have never seen a real miracle. I could call miracles something when maths are against the odds, but things still happen. That is, there is a 9 to 1 chance that it happens, but there is still a 1 chance that it's going to happen. As a Pokemon player, I do know that sometimes that attack that always fails can hit and kill in one hit. So yeah, those things happen. That's how randomness works. And as you mentioned, the cancer goes into remission. Our body's amazing. Obviously, we have a whole system that is constantly trying to cure our bodies. So sometimes we get sick, and yes, our system is going to help us and revive us. I was going to say, cure us. So yeah, I have never seen a real medical miracle. I haven't seen any miracle at all, unless you call a miracle that I slept like 3 hours and I was able to arrive at work only 10 minutes late today. That is what I call a miracle. But that wasn't God intervening here.
That's right. Yeah. All
So,
right, Dale.
dear
Well,
Apostate, we have
do we
no.
have any more calls?
I don't see any more calls in here. Maybe one of our screeners want to come up here and say something, but I haven't received any confirmation by private message, so I don't want to just send the screener in here and ask, "Do you want to say something?" And our dear screener is going to be like, "Nope, I don't want to be here."
Put her in the
So
spot. Put her on the spot. She can handle it. In fact, she might be even more equipped to talk about this issue than you and I together, because I think she's a medical
that's
professional,
true.
right?
Yes, yes. Okay. Please said, you know that you are the best screen caller ever. Come here. Mark decided to bring you here. You are the most amazing person ever. My favorite Canadian. So, how are you, dear Lisette?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for putting me on the spot.
Thank
It
you
was
for coming
Mark.
on.
I wanted to protect you. He didn't want to. He didn't want you, so it's his fault. Blame
No,
him.
he's right. I can handle it. It's fine. It's all good.
So, how
Oh
many
my gosh, I
miracles do
didn't
you
believe
see
it here.
happening, Lisette? How many miracles do you see happening in the hospital?
I see miracles every day. It's super interesting to me to hear about this because I think it's something that I'm faced with on a daily basis. And it really comes down to defining what miracle is, right? So for me, like I use it very flippantly and I use it in a very common language way where when I hear somebody say the word miracle, my mind doesn't automatically go to, oh, Jesus came from the sky and all of that. But then you see those memes where, and they're so funny. You see the memes where like the surgeon, for example, is praying and he goes, "God, please help me save this person." And then Jesus is beside him and is like, "Why are you removing that tumor? I put it in there." Like how it's just so circular. It's so ridiculous. But honestly, the way that I see it, like I'm faced on a daily basis with people saying that, their health getting better or the work that they've put into themselves is thanks to God. And it breaks my heart because they're taking away that credit from themselves. They're taking away that empowerment from all the work and all the dedication that they've put into it. And it's just, they're doing themselves such a disservice that if they were able to look at themselves and the achievements that they have accomplished and give themselves that credit, I mean, they could do so much more, right? It sucks that they're giving it to this other being, for lack of a better term, that, in my opinion, I'm one of the atheists that will say doesn't exist. So, I mean, it really sucks. And I think that it's huge detriment to people's confidence, to people's self-worth, to their self-esteem, to who they could be in the future. And then even with the drug conversation from earlier, I mean, if you're going to base the foundation of your recovery in God or in religion, what's going to happen when somebody in that religion fails you? Or when somebody comes to you with an argument that you might not really have an answer for? Is that the foundation that you want your, that stability of your recovery on? It's a lifelong journey, and addiction is something that is forever in somebody who is suffering from addictions life. So to give them the tools that are not only momentary, but also just so weak and based on nothing, it's honestly, it's terrifying, because you're not setting them up for success, and you're not giving them the credit where it's due too, right? So, I mean, I can tell you right now that as a nurse, I've never, like, there's no sense in me of wanting to have a thank you. Like, that's not what I do or why I do things. I'm not like, oh, why didn't you say thank you to me? That would be a really weird thought. And I think I can confidently say that a lot of healthcare professionals that I know do things because it's their job, but it's because it's their calling, it's their career, it's their passion, it's what they believe they're meant to do, etc. For so many different ones, right? But very, very few would actually expect a thank you. It is absolutely, though, a total slap in the face when people are giving this credit to these organizations. Not to me, though. It's that slap in the face to themselves. It's heartbreaking. It's really sad.
Yeah, and the crazy part is that the true miracle workers, of course, they always start at home, right? Mom making the chicken soup, looking after the kid, right? To the nurse, to the orderly, the person that's cleaning the room, that's changing the sheets, right? People that are like more often than not overworked and underpaid. Those are the true people, the true miracle workers that never get the credit and the support from the community, because us in the church, well, not anymore, but those in the church want to give the credit to their God and claim something that they play no role in.
100%. And even during the peak of COVID, when it was such a hard time emotionally, physically, financially for so many people, and to see on TV somebody like Kenneth Copeland, who would be still hosting his church masses or services or whatever they're called, and he would be like spitting and just like having these huge, massive congregations of people who think that they're above and beyond just the reality of basic bacteria behavior. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that all of that. It's such a slap in the face. They're praying to God to help them with COVID and to overcome the pandemic, but then they're putting themselves in situations that are basically guaranteeing the pandemic not to end. So it's all of that sick, that cycle of just pure, like you're shooting yourself in your own foot, and then you're complaining about your bullet wounds, right? And then if something does happen that's good, or if something does miraculously get better, then immediately all the credit goes to God. But when everything is crap, there is no credit to God. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? If you're going to give credit to some celestial being when things are good, why not blame him for all the bad too? It doesn't make sense to me, and it makes me really angry.
Yeah, definitely. So it makes me angry too. And not to mention, well, I'll just add to what you said perfectly, how usually the message coming from the church confuses people when it relates to healthcare.
Totally.
And pandemics. I mean, we came from that, so we've seen the videos on TikTok of people refusing to wear the mask and stuff like that because
the blood of Jesus protects me. Ugh,
exactly.
Disgusting.
Because the vaccine carries the mark of the beast, and on and on and on. So yeah, definitely religion absolutely does not help when it comes to healthcare. I don't care what you say. It makes it worse.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
I want to quote artist chick who says, and this is for Lisette, even if you don't want a thank you to all nurses for all you do. You are the real rock stars. You are all gifts from God. So you are amazing, Lisette.
Yes.
Don't ever forget that. We all love and admire you.
I'm really glad I'm not on camera right now.
Awesome.
Thank you guys. I think you guys are all awesome. Honestly, like when it comes to all these topics, and I was there, right? I was that very dedicated Christian who started losing my faith and my religion exactly by shows like these, right? Like we all know Matt Dillahunty and Shannon Q, and these are people who really were able to reach me in my mind. And when I see like that really sad, just it's just heartbreaking. It's sad. I wish that there was more callers so that, you know, we could maybe try and hopefully just ask the questions that I was asked that I had no answer for, that really helped me kind of be more comfortable with no longer believing, which is a super painful process, but it was such a necessary process in order to find my peace and my happiness and my satisfaction with life, right? Like now I give credit to myself. I remember, did you guys ever do this? When you would do a test in school and be like, oh God, please help me pass this test. And you'd spend hours studying and then you'd get a really, really good mark on that test. And it's like, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking back and I'm like, thank you, me, for all the hours of, 3 a.m, late up mornings where you'd be cramming for those finals and doing those essays and trying to get through so that you could, accomplish your goals and your dreams. And to rob yourself from that, I think that's the saddest part about it all, is now I actually value myself and I think of myself as somebody who's pretty, dedicated. And those are all words that I would have attributed to a God before that now I can actually use synonymously with me. And that's pretty empowering. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you are awesome.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you, Shannon Dillahunty, for giving us one of the most amazing person that I've ever met in here. I'm so happy that you're part of this, Lisette. You are amazing. Don't ever forget that.
Thank you. You don't let me.
Cool. Well, dear Apostate, I think we are reaching the end of this because we have been 1 hour, 22 minutes. We have 5 people in the chat, including Tardis Chick, who, once again, I'm happy to see you here. Tardis Chick, you are awesome. And obviously, Lisette, thank you for being here. Keramono and Ton, they have been here in the chat as well. I think censorship was going around there as well. So yeah, cool people, and it's been a cool show. I'm happy how we are advancing. Much better than the first time.
Yeah, I'm glad the phone calls worked. So whatever setting we have on right now, we're gonna try and keep that, right, Theo?
We are not freaking changing anything, guys. Nothing at all.
Yes.
So this is how we keep rolling from now on.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's bring this to a close.
Yeah, sure. Let's leave now. Thank you so much. Do we have anything to remind people to do besides joining our channels?
I mean, just don't forget to subscribe, and I am putting updates on our Facebook page. We do have a Facebook page, so if you're not already following, please do so, and make sure you hit that notification bell. I know that we're gonna keep a regular schedule, but don't trust yourself. We do get busy, and so it's nice to have that little reminder on YouTube that, hey, Mark and Theo are coming up, so you don't want to miss. I think this show is getting more and more interesting, so thank you for being a part of it. We are so fortunate to have you.
To that thing that you said, people don't trust yourself, I will say people don't trust us. We started late today and we are probably going to mess up in future. So even if you follow us in a regular schedule, don't trust us either, because sadly we're humans. Despite me being so cute and all of that, I'm still human behind the cartoonist. So
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
Thank you so much and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to the all-new call-in show, Relief Battles, a weekly show ready to take your calls about religion, atheism, and secularism, featuring co-hosts, atheist and international VTuber Teo Elateo, and Mark Peralta, an ex-evangelical pastor, now atheist. So without further ado, Relief Battles.
call 1-866-696-6698.